Kevin Kujan is a 23-year-old with a passion for real estate, finance, and self-development. In this episode, we talk about how he acquired a rental property at such a young age, his investment strategy in the stock market, the changing viewpoint on the importance of a college degree, and more. I really enjoyed this conversation with Kevin, and I hope you do as well.
It's simple. Warren Buffett says it clearly in his book. It's buy low, sell high. So I'm buying low and selling high. It's really simple for me. Warren Buffett knows what he's talking about.
Don't you mean Warren Buffett?
All right, everybody, welcome to the 10th episode of the Richuation Room, officially in double digits for the podcast. We're going to keep this thing rolling with our next guest today, Kevin Kujan. He's 22 years old, is that right?
23.
23, just turned 23, I guess. And he's got an investment property already. He's invested in the stock market. He also does some affiliate marketing and runs a YouTube channel and probably a bunch of other things that we're going to get into. So thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I didn't know it was a double-digit episode. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, maybe we'll have you on for the 100th just to kind of round it out, maybe in like a year from now or something like that.
That'd be awesome.
For just a little bit of an introduction, maybe people who don't follow you on YouTube or Instagram or anything like that, give us a little bit of a background on a little bit of who you are, kind of where you're from, and the steps you took to kind of get to the position you are in life now.
Yeah, well, I'm still young, 23, so I have a long way to go. But born and raised Long Island, started working at a really young age, probably 12 years old. And recently just got into investing, just started out on YouTube. I'm only a month in, but I've been growing pretty quick. I'm already at like 250 subscribers, so it's super cool. But really just a normal childhood like anybody else. Grew up just always working hard, and that's pretty much it.
You an Islanders fan?
Yes, because I was raised that way. But I mean, I like a lot of teams. But yeah, I grew up in an Islanders household.
Gotcha. It's not really by choice, I guess, just
Yeah.
by association. Very cool. Let's get into the first thing I want to talk about is real estate. I know you have one investment property, potentially looking at more in the future. Do you kind of remember when you first were turned on to real estate and when you started realizing that it could be a good form of secondary income?
Yeah, it was actually recently, probably only in the last years is when I really started thinking about real estate. Are you familiar with Bigger Pockets?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, so that's kind of what turned me onto it. I actually had a buddy who bought his first rental property that I worked with, and when he told me about it, I was just fascinated at how much money he was making. He was profiting like $500, $600 a month, paying down the mortgage, and just built up another income stream. So I got into Bigger Pockets. He showed me that, started listening to those podcasts, and really just really got hands-on and wanted to figure out how to buy my first property. And then I'd say probably 6 months after that, I was able to purchase my first one back in February of this year. I closed on it.
Very cool. I think a lot of people, they'll come across Bigger Pockets or they'll come across different real estate channels and they'll get interested. And then when they start doing the research and they realize it's not necessarily a ton of work, but it can just be a little bit daunting, kind of going through the paperwork and figuring out the loan. Did you have anything to kind of guide you through that process that didn't scare you away?
Well, my buddy guided me through it a little bit, but I'll be honest, I was terrified. I made a video on it, and I was absolutely my brother was actually my real estate agent, so that obviously helped a little bit. And to be completely honest, if he wasn't my real estate agent, I probably wouldn't have bought the house. It was a perfect scenario, the property I bought. But what happened was going through the process, I was looking at everything that could go wrong, like just trying to scare myself to pull out of the deal. When in reality, like everything was going right. The numbers made sense. Everything made sense. So at the end of the day, I just pushed through it. But throughout the process, I mean, I looked for every reason to not do the deal, which looking back now was the wrong decision. I should have went into a positive. When the deal makes sense, the deal makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's kind of human nature to maybe take a step back and realize it's pretty big decision that you're making, right? Unless you're buying a house outright and you're not going to have a loan and you're still going to have plenty of money to live, it can be a little bit daunting to realize what you're taking on, even if you get a decent interest rate and even if it's the right property for you. Can you talk us through basically how you analyze the property and realize that, hey, I may or may not make cash flow on this, maybe decisions for going with the property you decided to buy versus some of the other options potentially?
Yeah, well, I looked at a few houses, and I'll actually give you the backstory because it's actually really funny. So, remember before I was telling you my buddy actually got me into real estate? He asked me to come look at a house with him. So I said, sure, I'll come take a look. So we're looking at this house and we look through the whole house. We're in the backyard and the neighbor next door is in their backyard and they call us over and say, hey, I'm thinking about selling my house. Come over, check it out. So we go over there and we're looking for him. I wasn't really even, I was at this point thinking about buying a home, but wasn't really, full into it yet. So we go over there, we look at the whole house. There's a tenant in the basement. It's a split level, and the tenant wants to stay. So she said, she's looking for somebody who wants a tenant in the basement. So my buddy said, I'm not looking for that because he was just looking for a different type of property. Long story short, I ended up buying that house, and he bought the one next door. So we actually bought houses next to each other, and they're both investment properties. He's living in his, and plans to turn it into a rental property, and then I just ended up renting mine out. It's a split level, so I have a tenant in the bottom and the top.
Got it. So you're not currently living in that space.
No, I'm not currently living. It's just a rental. But to answer your question, when it came to analyzing it, I really just looked at pretty much what my monthly spend would be, what the mortgage and all the utilities would be, and then looked at the market rent. There's a cool website, Rentometer, where you type in the zip code and it kind of gives you a breakdown of the rent in that area based on bedrooms, bathrooms, and just size of the property. And when I looked at this and analyzed it, I was in the green $1,200 a month. So I had so much wiggle room to play with that I wasn't scared to buy it at that point. I realized, listen, even if I buy it and my numbers are off by half, I'm still making $600. You know what I mean? And that property's been making me now so far about $1,000 a month in cash flow, which is absolutely crazy.
Dude, that's awesome. How much time did you look at any other properties, or is that like the first one and you just signed the dotted line?
I looked at two others, and the other ones I looked at, I was really looking for something with two units, whether it be a duplex or a split level, because I wanted to have as much cash flow as possible. Obviously, easier said than done. Finding a nice property at a good price with two potential units. So the other properties I looked at, they needed a lot of work, and I really, for my first deal, I just wanted to buy something that was kind of ready to go. So when this came up, there was a tenant downstairs already who was there 15 years, didn't want to leave. I was like, wow, I could buy into a house already that is producing money, not cash flowing, because the downstairs is the cheaper unit, but still, just to have money coming in as soon as I purchased the home, that was huge for me.
Absolutely. And how is real estate in the area that you're buying? Would you consider it overvalued? Are there still good deals around?
There are still good deals around. It's funny you say that. A friend of mine actually called me the other day and said, where's your house? What town is it in? So I told him what town. He's like, my friend just called me and he said, houses there cannot stay on the market for one day. I know the real estate market right now is crazy. I have a lot of friends in that are real estate agents, investors, and I think personally the market overall is just overvalued right now. I mean, we'll see what happens in the next few months, but luckily for me, I got my house in a great area.
And then what's your time horizon like? You planning to hold for, a long time? If the market runs up like crazy, would you even think about selling?
I put some thought into that. I don't think I would sell just because of the cash flow I'm getting. Finding a property that cash flows $1,000 a month, from other deals I've looked at now, that being that I'm into real estate, I mean it's tough. It's tough to find a deal like that. So I don't think I don't plan on selling for a very long time. I think I want to hold. My goal ultimately is to get up to 10 rental properties and just have a ton of cash flowing properties.
That'd be awesome, man. I'm with you. I have one rental property. It's a single family home, and I'm generating like $200 of income a month. But I didn't really go into it with the same mindset where I was basically seeking out a cash flow machine. It was somewhere that I lived with some friends for a little while, and then when I had to move, I just figured I'd try and rent it out. And it's in an area where I think it's going to appreciate like crazy over the next 10 years. It's one of the like fastest growing real estate markets. So I basically told myself, even if I'm eating $300 a month, right, somebody's still paying 90% of my mortgage, which is pretty good as you're building that equity. So I think there's definitely different ways to go about doing it, but that's pretty sweet to get pretty much $1,000 a month right away going into your pocket. How did you finance this deal? Being that you're 23, did you work for a little while and build up a down payment? Did you not have to pay a down payment? How did that work out?
Yeah, no, I definitely had to pay a significant down payment. So I started working in finance at 19 years old as an account executive. Um, Basically, what I do is I speak to business owners and I help them obtain loans and lines of credit for their company. And I I just dove in head first, and I ended up getting top salesman my first year there. I also got a top salesman award for 2019. So, I've been making for the last 3 years over 100,000 a year, which at my age with not many bills, I've been able to save up a decent amount of money.
So top salesman of the year at 19, were like the other 40-year-olds in the office pretty pissed or what?
Uh, well, there's a few guys. It's not just one guy that gets. We're a big company, probably like 50 to 70 salesmen. So I think three guys get it. And I mean, nobody was really pissed, but it was definitely, I definitely set the bar for just a new kid coming in and just grinding. I put my head down for a year straight. I didn't go out, I didn't do anything, and it paid off.
Yeah, you also probably put yourself, you're like, man, now I have to, if I underperform, it's going to look bad because you're like setting that bar super high for yourself right off the bat.
Yeah, and I had nothing to lose. I was looking at it like if I put in the work for a year, if it doesn't work out, whatever, I'm still young, I can figure it out. But it ended up it ended up working out pretty good.
Very cool. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but back to the real estate. Um, you said your goal is to have 10 properties. Is there anything short term, kind of future, where you have a property in mind or a timeline on when you hopefully acquire your second or your third?
Yeah, so I'm 23. I still actually live home, but I have like a separate living space where it's like my own area, and I actually help my parents a lot. I kind of take care of them. They're older, and I pay a lot of the things here, so it's like a win-win. They like having me here. I have my own space, and I save a lot of money by doing this. But my plan is, I'm hoping next year, middle of the year, around May or June, to purchase another split level or duplex and house hack it. So live in one of the units and then rent out the other ones, just to keep my expenses as low as possible. So that's what I'm aiming for. We got to see what the market does over the next year. I think it's gonna be a wild ride, but that's a perfect world. What I would like to do.
For sure. Maybe in terms of buying, it might not help you, but in terms of getting tenants, I would imagine potentially people leaving New York City might be coming your way where there would be tenants. Have you seen any of that already?
I wouldn't be surprised. I've heard of. I have a few friends that work out in the Hamptons that own businesses and do things out there, and they said it's been super busy. It's been like crazy out there, obviously because it's summer, but they said even more so than normal. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people from the city start to move this way.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Shifting over to more kind of finance talk. So I know you said you just started your investing journey recently. I guess before we even talk about what you're doing there, I'd like to speak to how you're splitting up your funds. So you said you're making a decent, a nice paycheck for your age, low expenses. You're saving up probably for another rental property. How are you diverging where that excess income is going after you kind of pay for the things that you need? Is there a percentage based? Hey, I'm saving up for this amount for the real estate. I'm putting this amount in per week into the investment, or kind of how are you thinking about that?
So I typically do it not percentage based, just amount based. And to be honest, with what's going on in the world right now, my job has slowed. I'm still working, but I'm 100% commission. So if I'm not closing deals, I'm not making money. And so my income has definitely taken a hit the last 2 months. I think on the back end of this though, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for business owners that need money. So I'm not worried. I think it'll bounce back. But right now, what I'm doing is I do 2,500 a month into a money market account. That is my like real estate fund, and I do want to increase that in the future. I'm doing $550 a month into a long term. Just a long-term investing portfolio on M1 Finance, and then recently I'm doing a Robinhood challenge where this is where bulk of my money's going. I'm doing 1,000 a week, and I'm going to try to do it for a year straight. That way, I can get over 50 grand in a Robinhood account, which is like my long-term goal. The rest of my money, I kind of have just been keeping it in my bank account. I'm trying to hold on to as much cash as possible during this time in case there is a huge downturn in stocks or I see an investment opportunity. I just want to have cash on hand. So that's kind of been my plan and what I've been doing the last few months.
Sweet. And then what are you looking for? Let's go with Robinhood first. So What's your strategy there? You just buying things that you think make sense? Your dividends, growth, kind of what are you looking for there?
Yeah, I'm focusing on dividends. I've been having a lot of FOMO wanting to invest in the electric sector, Tesla, Neo, Blink Charging. I actually bought a lot of shares of Blink Charging, but I'm trying to keep a level head as an investor and not just follow all the hype. But yeah, like all the good dividend paying stocks, Realty Income, Stag. Um, I know I mentioned to you, I'm definitely not a stock expert or investing expert by any means. I kind of read and read articles, what I like, what I want to invest in. That's kind of what I do. Companies I believe in the long term. That's also a lot of what I put my money into.
Do you remember how you got interested in finance? Was that just kind of a byproduct of looking at real estate stuff?
I'd say I really got into it when I started my career because I was surrounded by people that were just crushing and making so much money. And I was also giving loans out. So I learned a lot about interest rates, finance in general. And then I'd say what was the real turning point? I'm sure you know who Stephan is. I watched him when he was like a nobody, when he had like 10,000 subscribers, when he was making videos with his Lotus. And I just watched his growth and how frugal he was and how his income kept growing. And that's really what made me want to start making a lot more money and just investing.
Gotcha. And then let's talk about your M1. So, is there any different strategy there? I know you said it's more long term. Is that going to change what you're buying? What kind of assets you're buying?
Yeah, so I right now, and it might change in the future, but right now I have just an ETF. I think it's a S&P 500 ETF. So just top companies, 50% of that, and then I have it diversified between Microsoft, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, and Alphabet. I think there's like 10% in each of those, and those are just companies I believe in the long term. I think Tesla over the next 10 years is going to crush it. I think Amazon is going to take over the world. I invest a lot of my long term money in companies that I just see growing over the next 10, 20 years.
I like that you have the exposure into the growth side as well. I think for good reason. Dividends can be attractive. I have a dividend portfolio myself. But one thing I've kind of woken up to recently is that, I'm younger as well, in my late 20s, and I feel like I'd be missing out if I wasn't investing in growth stocks. And yeah, so I started a growth portfolio probably like a year ago, and it's still less I've contributed less to it than my dividend portfolio, but it, vastly outperforms. And sometimes I question, maybe I should just go pretty much all in on growth stocks. And then if I want that passive income, guess what? I can sell it and then put it into something that's going to be generating dividends. So that's kind of a thought I've been having recently.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's the way I look at it too is nothing's set in stone. If I want to pivot in a few months and say, all right, I'm gonna trade this for some growth companies, I always could do that. I'm more so just doing this Robinhood challenge for content on YouTube. That's kind of going to be my focus for the next year, and I really want to challenge myself to see if I can get a Robinhood portfolio over 50,000. It's going to take a lot of discipline, but I think I can do it.
It probably keeps you honest when you're posting something, whether it be every week or whatever for the Robinhood challenge. You're gonna have people, as your subscriber base grows, you're gonna have people kind of calling you out if you're not doing that. So it's kind of good personal discipline, I guess.
Yeah, it's like having an accountability partner online.
Yeah, exactly. Good segue there into YouTube. Obviously, we talked about Bigger Pockets, we talked about Graham Stephan. I'm sure those are influences for you. What was the driving factor on you starting a YouTube channel?
I wanted to start a YouTube channel probably 3 years ago, and for some reason, and I tried to make videos. For some reason, every time I got in front of a camera and I would just start talking, I just couldn't do it. I would like freeze up. And one day, well, last month when I said, you know what, I'm going to do 2 to 3 videos a week for a year straight, no matter what. Like I'm just going to do it. I don't care how I sound. I have nothing to lose, and who cares? I think the biggest factor for a lot of people when they want to make YouTube videos is they don't want to sound stupid or they're like embarrassed what people are going to think. And you just got to put that all behind you because I'm a month into it, and now when I get in front of the camera, I feel a lot more comfortable. So I can only imagine this time next year how much of a difference it's going to be. The biggest driving factor was just watching these small YouTubers start out with a small audience and just slowly grow. It's like compound interest. That's what I compare it to. If you put in the work, produce content, people take a liking to it, you will grow over time. So there wasn't really one creator besides Graham. He's one of the main ones that I can't believe he exploded the way he did. And, I think having a personal brand and an audience is the future. I think there's so many ways to monetize it in a good way. Not only that, but if you're adding value to people, it also feels great. So that was some of the main driving factors to me starting on YouTube.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of things that I've had this conversation with a few other guys that have channels. Not sure if you're familiar with Kyle, passive income investor, but he talked about basically how, like you said, the personal brand thing is the future. And basically, if you're not starting something now, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be behind, but talk about like what Gary Vee says, right? It's this grab right now for attention. And if you can start something now, it's like investing early, kind of like you talked about. You're going to get your foot in the door, and then 10 years from now, when doing things like this is the norm and it's not maybe considered out of the box, or like this guy's doing some weird thing with a YouTube channel, then you're going to be happy that you did that. The other thing I thought was interesting is I had Casey Burns, again, not sure if you're familiar with him, but I had him on my podcast a little while ago, and he was talking about the same thing where he wanted to make YouTube channels for a long time. And he talks about how there's this like high school project that he did that was like some Romeo and Juliet play or something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was from like 10 years ago. And he was like, if you go on my YouTube channel now, he's probably got a few thousand subscribers. If you go on my YouTube channel now and you go to my oldest video, it's still on there. And it's, has nothing to do with his channel. And basically he said the reason he leaves it on there is because if he had just started when he wanted to, his YouTube channel then 10 years ago, imagine where his channel would be now, right? The gap is like 10 years, and then it's like a year ago if you look at oldest. And it's just kind of his reminder to him that, the best time to start is today, because you can't buy back that time in the past.
Yeah, 100%. If you go to my channel and you go to sort the videos by the oldest, my oldest video is actually a year ago. I think it was around May 2019. I made a video on stash investing, and I had a lot of money in there. I had about 15 grand in there, and I made that video, and for some reason, I just couldn't build up the courage to continue. But imagine if I did. Imagine I started a year ago, where I'd be today with the consistency. So, you just got to start. I mean, there's, just start, and you'll thank yourself in the future.
And I think the other thing you talked about where you said, I'm going to give it a year, right? No matter what happens, I get 0 views, 0 subscribers, I'm going to give it a year. I think that's really important because you'll look back once you hit that mark and you can just say, was this worth my time, right? It was a year of my life. It's not like I spent every waking moment doing it, but was this worth my time? Or, maybe I reevaluate and it's not worth doing anymore. But it kind of gives you that point to not really give up before that. The other thing is I talk about basically that the benefits of doing this kind of stuff. I mean, you learn so much, whether it be doing research for a video, doing a conversation like this. Obviously, most of mine are conversing with other people, kind of like-minded individuals. And having conversations like this is going to be way more beneficial to me than probably other things I could be doing with my time right now, because it's 8:45 here on a Wednesday morning. I got to go to work in a few hours, but I can promise you I wouldn't be having a conversation about this stuff. I'd probably be playing video games or watching Netflix or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to spend your time with people that have similar goals to you. And another thing I didn't realize is jumping on YouTube. There's like a small YouTube community of, I'm sure it's in every niche, but especially finance, that just support each other, and it's really cool to see. I didn't think that when I would start making videos, I'd have a bunch of people commenting that do the same thing that I'm interested in. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah, totally agree. Where would you like to see your channel go in the future? Obviously, if you could wave a magic wand and have 1 million followers, that'd be awesome. But any kind of short-term goals, or just things not even numbers related, just things that you're hoping to get out of it?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not doing this for, I mean, I don't want to say I'm not doing it for money, because the goal is obviously to create another income source. But beyond that, if I could just impact people and help them, like, I'm trying to still find my voice on YouTube, but I'm doing like a cross between like investing videos, like Robinhood style investing, but also that like personal finance and just giving my opinion on things. So I'm not really going for like an analysis like stock channel. I'm more going for like an entertainment side of investing in people that like finance. but there's really, I mean, one goal I want a plaque. I want a YouTube plaque. I'm gonna get a YouTube plaque. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get 100,000 subscribers because I want that plaque. I want to hang it up. I want to put a light on it. That's something I've always wanted. Like I said, I wanted to start YouTube years ago, and there's been a lot of things that happened in my life recently that have kind of made me pivot and say, you know what, life's so short to the point where I just need to do it. There's no excuse. Like I have nothing to lose if I don't try. And if I don't try, then I'm going to look back in 10 years and say, what could I have done? Um, so that's really one of the main goals. I just want to get a YouTube plaque, but I just want to influence people and help people. That's really the goal.
Yeah, I've noticed as well that it takes a little while to kind of get your footing on, hey, how are my video styles going to end up? What kind of vibe am I trying to put out there? And I think that's going to change over time, just like people change. You're going to kind of find your way as it kind of progresses over time. I'm sure you're familiar with Grant Cardone, right?
Oh yeah, I got a 10x hat in my bedroom.
There we go. So Grant, I think he's the guy that talks about. He says, or maybe is it Grant? I think it is him. Maybe you'll correct me. You're the 10x guy. So he basically says something like, you got to know why you want to do something, right? And he's like, if you want to do something because you want to be rich, then that's fine. Like, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Have you heard that?
Sounds like Grant. I don't know, but that sounds like something Grant would say, just kind of direct to the point.
Yeah, it's like I'm not saying it's the only reason, but it's like, you want that plaque. It's like, that's why you want to do this, just to get that plaque. So,
Which, I mean, listen, it's kind of silly to say like it's just a plaque, but I don't know why. I've always wanted one. Just over the years, I've always seen like YouTubers showing them. I feel like it's just such a cool thing. Like, and that's a big audience, 100,000 people that watch your content. Like, honestly, I couldn't even imagine. But I'm just gonna keep going, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens over the next few years. I'm gonna be patient, so I'm not in a rush.
yeah, I think it stands for more than that, right? Unless, I don't think you could even have the option to buy 100,000 subscribers. So that's probably not even a thing that they would allow you to do. You have like 100,000 subscribers and like 10 views per video, but
Yeah, you look like an idiot.
it stands for more than that. Yeah, it stands for more than that. You're going to have this audience that's watching you. That's a lot of people. Obviously, not everybody's truly subscribed, but if you have 100,000 subscribers, you're pulling in people that aren't subscribed all the time. So I think that's a pretty cool goal to have. What have been some of let's go with hardships first of starting a YouTube channel? Maybe things that you thought were going to be more difficult than anticipated.
I'll say one of the biggest things that I thought was going to be difficult to learn was going to be editing. And I by no means do I edit my videos crazy. If you go watch them, I just do simple little edits. And I took a lot of what I saw other YouTubers doing that were pretty big with little cuts, little zoom ins, things like that. I thought that was going to be really hard to learn. And I kind of got in my head about it where when I've made my first few videos, if you look at them, I really didn't do much editing. And then finally I sat down one day, I took an hour and watched a whole YouTube video on how to edit. And I learned so much in just simple little tricks. So that was one of the biggest hardships. And then, like I mentioned earlier, just getting in front of the camera and recording. You just got to do it because your first few videos, they're not going to be good. That's just the reality of it. But to get towards good videos, you got to make the bad ones. And that's something I adapted in my mindset. Like, let me just make the bad videos, get them out of the way. And as long as I improve a little bit, 1%, 0.1% on each video that I make, that's progress to me.
Absolutely. And then what have been some of the unexpected perks that have come out of it?
This is one, getting X to do a podcast, which is super cool. I never thought, like I said, I'm not even a month into it. So I never thought, and I never thought I would hit 100 subscribers this quick. I'm at almost 250. And like I said, it's been 3 weeks. So it's really crazy. I don't know why it's growing. I had one video I did on financial freedom that I guess took off and helped me out a lot. I was aiming to get 100 subscribers in the first like 4 or 5 months. So, it's just been crazy so far. I know I'm speaking like I'm getting thousands of subscribers, but it's just a big deal for me because I didn't expect it.
Yeah, I mean, that's 250 people, right, that are subscribed. It's not a small number. I think people downplay, especially on the internet, the significance of that. It's like there's some theory out there, I forget, it might be a Gary Vee thing, but a loyal 1,000 followers versus just a million random followers, that can have a much greater impact on what's going on there. I run a small business. We can talk offline about it if you'd like, but we have about 15,000 followers on Instagram and other places, but it's a loyal following. And I'll look at like these other pages on Instagram with, 100K, 200K. And I truly think if we put up a product and they put up a product, that we would outsell them, just because we have those people that actually care about the business and what's going on behind the scenes. So I think that's really important, that you build an authentic fan base. And then if that can grow to be 100,000 or a million people, then that's even better.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more.
What have you gotten any weird looks or any motivation from friends or family? Kind of how do they see this going for you?
I'll be honest, I don't think anybody knows I'm doing it. I haven't told anybody.
Really?
And it's not, I don't know why I haven't told anybody. I think, and this is something I always struggled with growing up. I'll be honest, I've tried a lot of businesses. I've tried probably everything you can think of to make money online or just side hustles, businesses. I did drop shipping for like 2 years and I actually made some money doing it. But I notice whenever I tell somebody what I'm doing, for some reason, it like takes away from me and I stop putting as much work into it. I don't know why. It's a weird thing. You would think it would be the opposite, where if I told like friends and family I'd want to do it more, but that's not the case with me. So um I'm not going to keep it from them forever. There's going to be the day where I say, hey, check out my videos. But right now I'm just on my own journey and I'm just going to be patient. And if they find out, they find out, and if they don't, they don't.
I'm actually kind of doing a similar thing with this, where some of my like close friends and family know about it just by a byproduct of me spending my time doing it. But overall, I'm not like out there promoting it on my personal Facebook or anything like that. It's just one of those things where I'd rather just build this thing up if I can. And, if both of us can build up our channels to pretty decent sizes with decent audiences and people find out, then I don't know, it just is going to be a little bit more fulfilling than trying to self promote or do anything like that. But I think there's some benefit to that.
Yeah, definitely. And I keep a small circle. So my Facebook, I probably have 100 just close family and friends. I never really had social media. If you go on my Instagram, I'll be completely honest, it was a business page that I had that I converted into my own page. So I don't really have any of my real friends on there. I don't want to say I don't like social media. I think it's a very powerful tool, but I think if it's used for the wrong things, that it can be very toxic. Um, so that's why I never really had a personal social media where I would connect with a lot of my friends. I was just never like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think that the average person, when you say that you're doing something that's outside of the box, it's looked down upon, and they almost, in general, they're gonna, I don't know if even make fun of you or just kind of look at you sideways. And if you really break it down, why are they doing something like that? It's probably because they're like, man, I should be doing something additional with my life. So most of the time, it's a reflection on themselves, the way they're actually reacting to that. But that's kind of my thought there.
Yeah, I forget who said the quote, but I think it's something like people want to see you do good, but not better than them. I think that's so true. I really, really do. And it's a shame, but I think that quote is so, so true.
Yeah, and it's like, people will make fun of somebody for starting a YouTube channel or running a podcast and spending an hour a day on it, but then they sit in their basement and watch Friends for like 4 hours
Yeah.
a day. So it's like you have to follow the line, and once you go outside the line, then you're a weirdo. But I'm sure people thought Elon Musk and all those guys were weirdos as well before now, and now look who's laughing.
Yeah, definitely.
That's all I want to talk about for YouTube stuff. I want to talk a little bit about secondary, I guess not, I don't know if the word is secondary education or further education after high school. I've mentioned it before on my podcast. I went to a 4-year college. I don't necessarily regret the decision. Luckily, I didn't have to spend much money to go there. I didn't go into debt or anything like that. But I think the sentiment on college and secondary education is changing. And like I've said before, I'm probably in a place in my life where I should be getting a master's degree based off of my career. And I'm kind of betting on the fact that I'm not going to need one. So I guess if I'm to go all in on something, that's kind of where I'm going with that. But I know you did not take the college route. So I'd like to speak a little bit to why you decided not to go to college. And then obviously you built up a nice income and a nice job for yourself without it, which many people would probably believe is impossible. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think college can be great if you have a plan. And I think when you're going to college, I think you should always do your first 2 years at a cheap community school. if unless you have a scholarship or don't have to pay for it, because a 4-year degree at a high-end school is very expensive. I have a buddy who graduated, I forget what degree he has. He went upstate in New York somewhere, and he has about, I want to say, 150,000 in student loans, and he's having trouble finding a job in his field, um, which is just crazy to me. Because if you spend that kind of money when you get out of college, you should have, in my opinion, like an 80-degree job right away. So it's just scary to go to college and not have a clear direction afterwards. I feel like a lot of people use it just because they think that's what they have to do, when that, in my opinion, isn't the case. I think after high school, everybody should just take time for themselves to kind of find themselves, figure out what they like doing. Lucky for me, throughout high school, me and my brother had a mobile detailing company. So, if you remember earlier, I mentioned when I was 12 years old, I started working at a car wash. My uncle was the manager there, so I was able to get a job there young. My brother ended up getting a van, started doing mobile stuff in the Hamptons, so we did high-end cars. So I loved it. I was cleaning Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Porsches at like 14, 15, and it was awesome. I could send you some pictures of some crazy cars that my brother still cleans. And so I always had that like entrepreneurial mindset, and didn't really want to work for anybody. So that's actually how I got into my job. I was cleaning the owner's vehicles, and he took a liking to me. He said, "You ever thought about doing sales?" I said, "Not really." And then, I got to talking with him. He showed me a few paychecks, and I said, "I'll give it a go." I think one of the most powerful things, especially in today's world, is going to be networking. You need to get out there, meet people, talk to different people. That's how you're going to get far in life. Um, College just isn't required anymore. I really believe that. I really, really believe that. Unless you're going to be like a lawyer, a doctor, I'm sure there's a handful of other degrees that are good degrees for certain careers. I think that if you just get out there, network, and hustle, put in the work, that you can get really far in life without having a degree.
Absolutely. Were you encouraged by family or friends to start working at that young age, or was it just something that randomly came along?
I was, yeah, I would say I was encouraged. So this is Southampton Car Wash that I started working at, and it wasn't forced upon me. Once I got my first paycheck, I was making like $6, $7 an hour at like 13 years old. So back then, making 50,
Those are the big bucks, man.
making like $50 from like a 12-hour day or whatever it was, that was cash off the books, and it felt good. It felt really good. Uh, I'll tell you something, when something really funny too. When I was in high school, my senior year, so what is that, 5, 6 years ago now? Crazy. Uh, I told my guidance counselor that I was running the mobile detailing business, which was true. I ended up getting a senior schedule with only 3 periods. The third period, fourth period, fifth period. I told her I needed to come in late and I needed to leave early for my business. And it was true. So I was leaving high school probably around 11 a.m. every day, my senior year, and I was shooting out to the Hamptons and cleaning a few clients' cars, making cash. And that was a very great experience for me. I think that's kind of what got my mindset where it was, of just like work, 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 put in the work, and good things will come.
I'm proud of that guidance counselor for kind of assisting you on
Oh, it
that.
was
I feel like
tough.
most of them would be like, "What are you doing?"
No, it was tough. I had to get proof of the business. She was cool about it, but I had to like show proof of the business. I forget what else I had to do, but it wasn't easy. It was a few meetings. But man, when I walked in on that first day of senior year and was showing everybody, "Hey, look at my schedule," they were like, "How did you do that?" Because I mean, nobody has 3 periods of senior year. At least, at least I've never heard of it. So it was actually really cool, really, really cool.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. That's one that'll follow you for sure as you continue to get more and more successful. Did you get any judgment, whether it be from students or family friends? I don't know what it's like around your area, but for me, if you didn't at least try to go to a 4-year college, it was like you were looked at as some failure in life, which is the most ridiculous thing ever. But that was kind of like the vibe that was going on at my high school. If you weren't going to a 4-year school, or you weren't like joining the military right away, people kind of thought that you had no idea what your direction was in life. Did you get any judgment when you basically made that decision to skip college?
No, I'm surrounded by a group of people that I don't think any of them went to college, but they are very, very successful. I'm surrounded by a lot of people that own companies, and there was no judgment. I mean, I have a few friends that they go to school. You know, I mentioned the one kid who's in tons of debt who can't find a job right now. My girlfriend is actually finishing up her master's in criminal justice at Albany. She's home now, but that's where she goes. And there was really no judgment. You know, I was surrounded by entrepreneurial people, and I have a few side hustles, but I almost feel like I'm behind everybody because although I'm making great income, I don't have my own full-time business like everybody else does. Everybody else I'm surrounded by, they make a lot of money and they have a lot of free time because they own companies.
Yeah, I get that. I think that's a really good kind of environment to be around as you're going through that. I think there's a lot of toxic environments like I was in where obviously it's all for the right reason, I guess. But it's like they've been trained into this mindset where if you're not going to a 4-year school, you don't know what you're doing. And I really want that to change. And I'm with you. I think the need for college is going to be, or the need for a college degree outside of those very specific things like doctor, lawyer, engineer, et cetera, is going to be going down. And you even see some of the top level CEOs today basically explaining that they don't really care if you have a degree. They just want to know if you're going to be able to get the job done. So I hope to see that continue. And I think as more and more people, in our generation get out of college with $80,000 to $100,000 in debt, when they're in management positions, hopefully they will realize that maybe college wasn't the best idea and they can hire people based off of merit.
Yeah, my biggest advice, anybody that wants to go to college, all I suggest is be ready and have a plan. Have a plan for when you graduate. Don't go and just get a generic degree and then say, all right, I'll figure it out after. If you're putting yourself in that much debt, you better be getting a good degree and you better have a plan. That's the best advice I could give.
You talked about how you feel like you're behind. I think the cool thing that you're doing is you're working your job, right, making the income, but now you're kind of hedging it on the side with the YouTube channel and other avenues, so you can continue to pull in the income that you're getting while on your off hours building up something else to continue to kind of contribute to that. So I think that's a solid way to go about doing it. I know you talked a little bit on your channel about maybe some other side hustles, or I know you do some affiliate marketing. Can you speak a little bit to what else you're doing to try and pull in a little bit of extra income?
Yeah, so I actually have a blog website. It's under construction right now because I'm redoing a lot of things. It's called growrichyoung.com, and I was posting articles there. I was working on it for a while, and that was making me some money through different affiliate links. One of the other main things that I do that I want to start to really focus on is am I wouldn't call myself a web developer, but I'm pretty good at making websites, and it was a side hustle I always did growing up. For all my friends that own businesses, I made their websites and I did a lot of social media marketing for them where they would pay me monthly. And it wasn't really something I looked at like a business, it was just a side hustle. So actually, it's funny, before we got on this, I was actually working on my own website because I think I'm going to actually pursue it a little bit now that I'm working from home. And just work on it on the side because I have all this extra free time. I think so many people they don't realize how much free time you really have. You got to look at those extra hours of what you're doing. What are you watching? You watching shows? You playing video games? If you really want to be successful, you gotta pick what's important to you. I think managing your time and having fun, watching a few shows or playing video games is great. But to maximize your time, you really got to look at your schedule and figure out where you can switch things around.
Absolutely. I think people don't realize, there's a lot of time in there that doesn't feel like they have free time, but they're doing things that aren't productive. I remember in college, going back to that conversation, there were people that would come into class the next day just looking beat tired, and they'd be like, "I pulled an all nighter for this, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Well, what did you do all day?" And they didn't even start their homework till like 11 p.m. I'm like, so you're like talking about how you pulled all these all nighters. I didn't pull an all nighter once in college, and I guarantee my schedule was busier than theirs because I was playing a sport. It's like you're kind of self inflicting on yourself there. So I think there's just an adjustment that people need to make where they realize, hey, maybe you don't need to watch The Bachelor because it's Monday.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, this has been a recent shift of mine. When I turned 21, I mean, I live on Long Island. We're partiers. We have restaurants on the water, bars on the water. I went through a phase my 21st summer where it was 2018, where I just partied like every day, every night. And I'll be honest, I'm glad I did it because I got it out of my system, like I got it out of my system. I never went to college, so I never got that experience. So I think it's important that I did that so that still at a young age now I'm content, that way I don't go on like a bender one day. Um, at least I got it out of my system. So I think it's important to have fun, but you really gotta prioritize, what's important to you.
Yeah, it just comes down to balance. I'm by no means like this guy, this entrepreneurial guy that preaches that you got to be sleeping 5 hours a day and grinding, you know, every hour in between. I think there's 100% balance, and I think that's what's going to keep you consistent in the long run. I don't think you can work 12 hours a day for 40 years. Like that's just not realistic, unless your job is like I don't know, watching movies and testing and rating movies or something
Yeah.
like that. It's same thing goes with finance. These people that pinch pennies to like the dime to save 10 cents on a loaf of bread at one grocery store over another. To me, that's just not worth my time. Like I'd rather just be conscious with what I'm spending and go about it that way. So there's 100% balance. It kind of bothers me when these entrepreneurs on YouTube are preaching this crazy, crazy work ethic where I'm really sitting there. I'm like, dude, there's no way that you do what you're saying like 24/7. You're telling me you don't sit down and watch Netflix every once in a while. You don't play a video game every once in a while. It's kind of misleading in my
Yeah,
opinion.
his BS meter goes through the roof. You could just kind of tell the fluff.
Yeah, 100%. While we're on the topic of productivity and that kind of stuff, I want to talk a little bit about. I know you talk sometimes about your routine. Anything that you do to maintain a high level of productivity while still keeping that nice balance.
I'm gonna give everybody one of the best tricks ever. It's very important. Ready? Drink a ton of water. It's simple. It sounds so silly, but I used to not drink a lot of water. There it is. We're on camera right now. Yeah, I drink so much water, man. I used to not. When I used to work outside, I used to drink like energy drinks, and I would have these spurts of energy, and then I would crash. But I drink so much water, and it keeps me sharp, keeps me focused. I think, like I said, it's simple. It sounds silly, but if you drink a lot of water, if you don't drink a lot of water, start drinking an extra 2-3 bottles a day. You'll see a huge difference.
Yeah, I think water and sleep are like the two most underrated things that people don't get enough of. It's once I switched up my priority of sleep and I make sure that I get a minimum of 7 hours a night. That kind of seems to be my sweet spot. It's just made me feel so much better. I used to stay up late, especially in college where I'd get back from practice, I'd have to do homework, and now it's 10 to 11 p.m. and I'm sitting there like I haven't had an hour of my life just to chill. So then I spend another hour to 2 hours chilling, watching Netflix or something. Then I get like 5 hours of sleep and I'd feel horrible the next day. And I kind of carried that same schedule into my career after I graduated. I finally switched it where I was like, whatever time I need to wake up tomorrow, I'm making sure I go to bed a minimum of 7 hours before that. And it's just made me feel exponentially better. Like I'm not tired during the day. Like you said, I'm drinking lots of water. I think that's just such a game changer.
Yeah, and then another huge productivity hack, which I think is underrated, is having an actual solid morning routine. I feel like a lot of people that wake up at different times and just do a lot of different things in the morning, it can throw you off your rhythm. And it doesn't have to be huge, but I feel like everybody should have like at least a solid 20 to 30 minute morning routine where they wake up, whether they exercise, whether they journal, whatever they do. I think everybody should have something they do consistently in the morning, that helps them start their day.
What are you looking at? We talked some about YouTube channels earlier, but other than the Richuation Room, what podcasts are you listening to? What kind of books are you reading? What do you do to kind of get your mind right?
Well, I listen to a lot of Bigger Pockets. I know I mentioned that earlier. I've read all of Grant Cardone's books. I think all of them. Be Obsessed or Be Average. You ever read that?
No, I got like halfway through the 10x rule, and then I don't know. I just never got through the
Read Be
rest.
Obsessed or Be Average. That book changed my life. It really, really did. He goes into how simple people, the reason they don't achieve success is they don't go all in, and how you really need to focus and just become obsessed with whatever you're doing. That's how you'll achieve massive success. Oh, look, that's funny. Look at this. I have it right here. I didn't realize. It's It's very
Oh,
funny.
nice.
I reference that book all the time. I'll go back in and just reread some chapters just when I'm feeling off. As for podcasts, really just the bigger pockets, and I actually listen to a lot of Joe Rogan. A lot of I like how he has a array of guests, a lot of different people from different industries and niches. And I'm a huge UFC fan, so there's that as well.
Did you watch the fights this past weekend?
Oh yeah, I'll be honest. I actually fell. I was in bed on my laptop watching midway through Aldo and Peter Yan, and I fell asleep. But I heard the main event wasn't anything too spectacular, so I didn't miss much.
Yeah, I missed the last fight as well, but the ones up to that were pretty good. It was nice to get some competition back on the TV. So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to the short little NBA run up here coming soon, and hopefully football. But we'll see what happens. All right, last thing to talk about. Any hobbies? What do you do to stay sane? Kind of things outside of just working.
One of my favorite things to do is, especially living on Long Island, is just go to a nice restaurant on the water, have some good food, hang out on the water. A lot of my buddies have houses on the water, so they have boats. We go fishing a lot. I'm like any normal person. I just like hanging out with some friends to wind down. But like I said, I have a very small circle, and I think it's super important for who you surround yourself by. I forget the saying, but you are who you hang out with. The five closest people, you'll be one of them. So if you're hanging around people that aren't doing the right thing, I think you got to make a conscious decision to change that up.
Yeah, 100%. Last thing, any closing thoughts? And then where can people find you? And I'll obviously put your link wherever this is posted.
Well, I appreciate you having me on here. This was super fun. I think I'm excited to see what the next 12 months bring, not only for myself, YouTube, investing, but just overall society. It's been a crazy year so far in 2020. I think that with what happened recently, I think everybody kind of got a reality check of, hey, things can happen in life, so be prepared. But you can find me at Kevin Kujan on YouTube. My Instagram is KEVKUJ, Kev Kuj. Those are really my only two places right now. But we'll see what the future brings. Maybe I'll start doing some other things. Who knows? Maybe a podcast of my own in the future. We'll see.
There you go. And we'll have you back on in a few months and kind of check in and see how everything's going.
Yeah, I'd be happy to be on. Get me on that 100th episode. Keep me for that.
Will do. All right, man.
See you later. Thank you.